Well, good morning, Mike.
Good morning. How are you doing today?
Doing great. We're here with Mike Gage, candidate for Silver Bow Butte Sheriff. Really glad you made it today.
I appreciate you having me. I'm looking forward to this.
Yeah, me too. This is it's going to be a great thing for the community and a great thing for your campaign.
Absolutely.
For sure. So, first episode, it's we're going to engage in getting to know Mike Gage a little bit. I think that's going to be a great thing for all the listeners out there. So, how's it going, man? How's your campaign going?
It's going really good. We're making progress every day, out meeting lots of new people and getting the word out on the streets of what we want to do here in Butte Silver Bow.
Great. That's definitely much needed, I think. And I think most folks would agree with that. Heard you were working at the festival the last couple of days. How'd that go?
I was working with the Chamber of Commerce, handing out the Butte America puzzle and helping sell those. And man, the turnout was amazing. I worked till 11 o'clock on Friday night and then worked a couple hours yesterday and just met a lot of amazing people from here in Butte Silver Bow and obviously outside of town.
That's awesome. That's good. Very good. How was the turnout for the festival? A lot of folks there.
There was several thousand people. So, it was amazing just to stand up there and see everybody, and everybody was having a great time and getting along. So it was a lot of fun.
Great. How was the music?
Music was good from what I could hear, but I was off far enough from the main stage that, Friday night I could hear it pretty well. Yesterday, it was with the wind, it was a little bit more difficult to hear, but I did hear a lot of good things from people that were coming by puzzles after they left, saying how good the music was.
Well, that's awesome. We'll definitely have to check out the festival before they're gone.
Absolutely.
So let's put you in the hot seat a little bit. We'll just jump right into this podcast.
I'm ready for it. Let's go.
Let's find out who the man is behind the name Mike Gage.
Well, I'll give you a little bit of my background. I was born in Houston, Texas. My dad was in optometry school at the University of Houston, and right after he graduated, we moved to a little town called Paola, Kansas. I think the population was about 5,800 to 6,000 people, and I grew up in that town and got on the volunteer fire department when I was 17 years old as a junior firefighter. And then I went to college at the Central Missouri State University, and that was a paid department. I got on there at the fire department. And then I started doing some ride-alongs with some of the police officers there in Warrensburg, Missouri, and changed my my degree to fire science and or criminal justice, and from fire science to criminal justice. And when I turned 21, I became a police officer and started with the Johnson County, Kansas Sheriff's Office. It's a department of about 500 deputies, and from there, I went to the Paola Police Department for a few months before I ended up at the Miami County Sheriff's Office in Kansas, and spent many years there. Started out in patrol, then became a field training officer. Then I went into the detective division, and that wasn't as really enjoyable for me because I wanted to be in the action and not just be sitting writing reports. And so I went back to patrol and to the SWAT team and became the team leader for our SWAT team and part of the Metropolitan Tactical Officers Association, which is all the tactical officers in Kansas City. Spent several years doing that. And then I spent the last 2 years as an accident reconstructionist. So just with a lot of the really, really serious injury accidents and all the fatality accidents in Miami County. So I really enjoyed that. And then I was offered a lot of money in another career, and I took it and left law enforcement in 2003.
Wow. I mean, that is you are a one-stop shop for public service and safety, huh?
Yeah, I still do the fire stuff. I did that also until 2009, and then as soon as I moved to Butte, Montana in 2016, the day I got here, I joined Boulevard Fire Department, and so I've been doing that now for 8 years. So really enjoy that as well.
Wow. Well, that's a great thing. It's always great to give back to the community you're in, especially through volunteering.
Absolutely.
And it's an important role as a volunteer firefighter because you have to have that coverage. It's a big county. It's a big area. It's a big town.
It's really big, and you really don't have any idea until you see some of your response times that take 20, 25, 30 minutes to get to. And yeah.
No, thank you for your service for this community.
You betcha.
For sure. So let's talk about your road to being a deputy back in Kansas. And that's quite a resume. We got, starting off as a deputy and then, going into investigations, being a detective. Sounds like you like to be among the people on the streets more than behind the desk. That's a good thing to be hands-on.
Being on the road was a lot more fun.
Yeah.
I'm just not one to sit behind a computer. I just want to be where the action is and be out there with the guys and have that camaraderie. And it's hard to get that sometimes sitting behind a desk and you're dealing with, cases that the fun part's already been done. And that was, being on the original call and getting that adrenaline rush. And, I missed a lot of that.
Right. Certainly. I'm sure you plan on being a hands-on sheriff. And
I will promise you this, I will be out among the people a lot more than I'll be sitting behind the desk. So yeah, I plan on, and my administration will also be as well. We'll be out on the road and being seen and assisting the patrol officers here in town.
Certainly. Yeah. I think that being very visible in that role would be a welcome change.
Well, and for the size of this community and the distances between some of the communities that they cover, we need more officers. And sometimes the money's not there, but we've got the administration. We can add to patrol 5 to 6 officers without costing the city a dime. And so by just putting the administration out there and helping out patrol, we can be seen in towns, like Divide, Wise River, Buxton, Rocker, Ramsey, Walkerville. We can make our presence be seen in those areas as well.
Sure. Well, optics are very important to curbing crime and being available in case something happens and people, don't have access to call 911.
Right.
So It's always great if you can flag down an officer.
Absolutely.
That's part of the community's, a good response to helping people out. Well, that's awesome. Well, we'll back up and talk about when you first got started in Kansas in law enforcement.
Yeah, so it was kind of funny. I had a captain on my department that used to work that I knew really well when I was on the fire department. He was on the police department, and he knew I was doing ride-alongs. And he told me at that time, he said, I'm telling you now, he said, don't do ride-alongs. He goes, because once it's in your blood, it's going to be really difficult to get it out of your blood. And he said, I'm telling you right now, he goes, you're going to be doing this career if you keep doing ride-alongs. And boy, he was right. The adrenaline, meeting the public, helping the public, being there at everybody else's worst moment was a pretty enjoyable and rewarding experience. And, I miss it, and I'm ready to get back into it.
Well said on that. I'm sure that's a very rewarding moment when you could be with somebody and help them at their darkest time.
Absolutely.
That's great. Do you have any special experience you could share about that time?
In regards of
something that really stood out on a call, somebody you really helped, maybe some gratitude you got from the community for something.
I think I took a lot of pride. I actually went to a school on how to properly do death notifications when I was in accident reconstruction, and you think of that's really somebody's worst moment in their lifetime is when you're knocking on the door. And
definitely,
it was a long school, and it's things that officers aren't trained on. Mm-hmm. And Kansas City, Missouri Homicide put on the class, and that was actually one of the best trainings I'd ever been to, because it gave us an insight as to what the family was going to be needing, as opposed to just standing there, knocking on the door, giving them the news. But then it let us know what to do after we gave them the news, as far as giving them contact numbers, getting them in touch with the proper people, the churches, people that can come help them and get their local church services to them and things, give them all the numbers and things that they were going to need going forward that they weren't able to comprehend at that moment.
Wow. Yeah, that has to be a very tough job to deliver that.
I think it's every officer's worst nightmare when you have to go.
I would agree.
Do that call.
Yeah, that's terrible. Well, it was great that they had training and that they offered training to how you deliver. Because if you think about how you deliver some information like that, I mean that sticks in that family member's head.
Right.
The words that you say. It's not just your family member is deceased. Sorry, and you
Right.
leave. There's more to that delivery because that's the words they hear forever,
Right.
and then they'll recant that. I mean, you see that on docu series on crime, and the victim's family. They're crying out, and the officer knocked on the door and said, "Your family member is expired." I mean, that's probably not the proper term, right? Because that's a little bit robotic. The word
Right.
expired. So I think maybe if you there's nothing that's going to make that moment better.
No, and
But if you package it at least with some sensitivity and emotion behind it, it probably at least it exists in that family member's mind for the end of their time in a more peaceful,
right.
gentle way.
And being that I have the unfortunate circumstance of also having received that news, it makes you look back and wonder, and I think I would know how to do it better now after having given it and then received that news as well I feel pretty comfortable and we will train our officers on how to properly do those type of calls. And, because there is a right way and a wrong way to do it. And, you're just not trained on it. And, even when you do have the training, it still doesn't go as planned because it is a very, very hard message to have to deliver.
Oh no, no doubt. That's definitely one of the probably top 5 hardest parts of the job, besides investigating crimes with innocent people, children, victims like that.
Right.
I mean, it's up there.
Yeah.
Certainly.
It's not a
So
fun.
no, not at all. But it also goes to show the diversity that law enforcement offers the community. It's not just about putting handcuffs on bad guys. It's deeper than that. It really is a community service that's designed to help the community, not just it's not about incarcerating. It's about helping.
Oh, you wear many, many hats when you're a police officer. At times, you're a psychologist, you're a doctor at times to them. You wear many hats, and it takes a lot to be a police officer. And people don't understand that. They think you're just going out and arresting, but boy, you're asked an awful lot.
Yeah. I think that's something that's been changed in the eyes of a lot of the media and a lot of America, mainstream America, in the last 25 years. I know growing up, it was presented that way too, that if you needed something, look for a cop,
Right.
sheriff deputy, what have you. And I think that the optics on law enforcement in the last several years has been uh, shown to divide law enforcement from the community, not unite it, not show what it really offers. So people look at cops as, they're going to give me a speeding ticket or arrest me. They really do. I mean, go up and have a conversation with one of them. Get to know the law enforcement in your community.
Yeah, you'll find out we're just like you.
Yeah,
We're no different than you. It's a
absolutely.
job. We're doing our job, and I think I think we need to be more active in the community nowadays.
Hmm.
Have a lot more programs, and I plan on bringing some programs to involve the community more, to get our officers in more of the schools. Because right now you see a lot of these young kids, they don't see the police anymore in their schools, and the only time they do see them is when they're arresting mom or dad, and they hear these horror stories about police officers, and they we used to call it, the kids that they were the boogeyman. That's what people used to think of police officers.
Right.
And
Right.
once you get to know them, and if you're involved in the schools when they're early, they get to know you and know that these are really neat people, and they do have a job to do. And that doesn't encompass all of who that person is. They're normal human beings, and they just have a really rough job to do. But I think if we get people out there more in the community and get them seen in community activities, that we can make a big change here in Butte Silver Bow.
Certainly. And to your point, law enforcement are people too, basically, is try to remember as the general public that they do have a tough job, and you'll do have a very tough job, and you are people, and you have when you don't feel like there's a lot of support, whether it comes from your administration behind the badge or in the public's eye in front of the badge, it doesn't make your job any easier.
Right. And if you don't have an administration that is backing you and supporting you, then you really are getting it from both sides. You've got the stress of the job, dealing with the public, and then the stress of the administration. And I don't know that I've seen a department where the morale is as low as Butte Silver Bow is right now. And I think that we can make pretty big changes in that almost instantaneously. And not only will that help the officers' morale going to work each day, it's also going to be a big part in how we recruit from word of mouth from our current officers.
Oh, okay. No, that's both, a sobering reality and a positive outlook on what you can do to make that better. Because if these officers are, their morale is low and they're not at their best, I mean, that's dangerous for them. That's certainly, putting some strain on their personal lives.
Oh, absolutely.
Nobody likes to go to a job and then they come home and they're not happy there. That's just a drag on every aspect of your life, both professional and personally. And it's dangerous for the community because they're not at their best.
Well, if you look around the nation, I don't think people realize that they see the numbers every year of law enforcement that have been killed in the line of duty. And those numbers are always in big bold letters for everybody to see. And it is sad. I'm not sure when that trend upward is going to change or if it ever will, at this point. But what they're not seeing is the amount of law enforcement officers that take their own lives each year. And that number is usually about triple what the line of duty deaths are each year. And that's just because there's so much stress placed on law enforcement officers nowadays, and from the public and from their administration. And everybody's worried about lawsuits or being sued, and so they handcuff what the officers are capable of doing out on patrol, and because the administration's worried about getting sued.
Right.
And so it just makes for a really, really tough time. And the officers have to make split-second decisions. And sometimes, those decisions are against what the policy manual says they're supposed to do. But in order to save somebody, they have to make that decision. And if you don't feel that your administration's going to back you once you've made that decision, it makes you hesitate and slow down on making decisions. And so, when I spoke with the police union here, I told them that my policy is always going to be make the right choices for the right decisions. For the right reason. So make the right choice for the right reason. And what that means is, if you make a questionable choice, but you can tell me why you did it and you did it for the right reasons, we're going to be okay. And we're going to back you. We know that a policy manual doesn't encompass all you're going to do or see every single day on the road, because there's so many different variables. And so always make the right choice for the right decision, and we're going to have your back.
Well, that's important to have, and that's a great thing. And I'm glad that you were told that by the union and by the powers that be, because you will have a big job ahead of you when you get elected and you get in there, because you're going to grow the department. You're going to put in training protocols and get these officers, a lot of hands-on experience through training and community interactions.
Well, right now they don't do any training.
No training.
Right. There's officers, everything they do is online training. And I think it's through Police One or something like that. So they sit in front of a computer. They have to do it while they're on shift. So they're sitting in their patrol cars, or they're sitting at the station watching these videos, getting calls in the middle of videos, and they're just trying to rush through them to get that. They're not there to learn anything. And let's be honest, nobody likes online training. You don't really learn anything, and we need to get the officers to train. There's tons of trainings. Other departments hold trainings. The state holds trainings. We have the ability to hold trainings here. We've got experts in certain fields where we could hold training classes for other departments, to come here. And I spoke with several officers and asked them about active shooter training, and they've never been. They don't even. They have no idea what to do or how to do an active shooter training. And they said it's been since about COVID since they've done one.
So no active shooter training, period. And how many schools, including elementary, middle, and high school, do we have in here?
I'm not even sure of the number. There are several elementary schools. I know there's 2 high schools. You've got Butte Central and Butte High.
Right.
And you've got hospitals and you've got churches. All these places should have a plan. in place, and the officers should know the building layout before they're ever going in.
Sure.
And that's one of the reasons that it's going to be big for me to get officers back in the schools in front of the kids with like an adopt a cop program or things, or even doing school walkthroughs during the day. So the officers get to know the layouts of these schools. So if something bad happens, when it does happen, because we know it's just a matter of time, we can pray and hope it doesn't happen, but at some point it will, and it will come to Butte again, because we've had one before here. So it will come again, and we need to be prepared for it. And the fact that they're not training, and I know I did a live video on this several weeks ago, and the next day the administration put out a memo that they were going to hold an active shooter training coming up, but it was going to have to be very basic. And because the patrol officers had no training in it, and so they couldn't make a comprehensive setup to go into this, because the officers don't even have a basic understanding of how to do it. I mean, they get a little bit of training at the academy, but it's not set up for what's going to be going on in an active shooter. And we need to train with highway patrol. We need to train with probation and parole. These are all people that are here in our community anyway, and they may be the first ones on scene.
Yeah, I mean, I think it should be a mutual aid effort where everybody trains together.
Because everybody's going to be rushing that scene.
It's going to be a madhouse.
And right now it would just be chaos, and nobody would know what to do. We saw what happened in Uvalde. Yep. You cannot sit and wait around for a SWAT team to get there, because that, I would say, probably here in Butte, if you were going to call out a SWAT team, I would say even in the very best of circumstances, you're going to have most of your officers at home or on days off. So if you could get them there in 15 minutes, the incident would already be over.
Right.
And so the officers, this type of scenario comes down to the patrol officers, and they have to have the training and knowledge of what to do to go in and engage the shooter and end the situation.
Certainly. And they have to engage as soon as they arrive on scene.
Absolutely.
And not wait for backup.
You can't delay.
And that may be one responding officer against three shooters.
Correct.
But he or she, they have to do their job. That's it. I mean, that's one of the biggest probably moments in their career, is they're facing life or death of themselves, and they're trying to save innocent victims, children, educators, doctors, nurses, whatever the situation, church parishioners, whatever the scenario is, they have to get in there and neutralize that threat.
Yeah, and we do need to have more training we do a very basic mass casualty incident training each year. I mean, it is very, very basic. And we need to up our game in that too, just to make sure that we are prepared for that. And I think the department, from what I understand, the patrol sergeants have a shield and they carry that in, but we need to get more shields too for our officers to be able, to make it more safe for them to enter those type of environments. And so that would be one of the first things that I want to do, as well, as far as equipment, is get more shields for our patrol, so we don't just have one per shift, because that's just not near enough.
Okay. Yeah, no doubt. Well, it also, to that point, this is we're at about 36,000 people, folks that live here now, the population. This is not a huge town. This isn't NYPD or New York City, where NYPD has 3,000 officers. So with dealing with, even if you double the patrol that's there, I think that it's still a great idea to have all of the administration involved, helping each other out. I mean, you have just a handful of people to patrol a large area, not just the city of Butte, but the county of Silver Bay. So yeah, all hands on deck, and having the proper equipment is a no-brainer. I mean, that's it. So, everybody that wears the uniform, needs to pitch in, and should have the proper equipment for all incidents.
Yeah, and I've spoken with the people at probation parole, and I've spoken with the highway patrol, and they all agree. We need change in Butte Silver Bow, and the departments all need to come together and train together and work together, because when things go bad, we're all going to have to be there and have trained, or otherwise we're going to have chaos on our hands.
Right. When you train together, you train like you play, and you play like you train.
Absolutely.
And if you don't, it'll look like it'll be a complete CF at that point.
Yeah, absolutely.
Everybody will be running around screaming, and everybody's going to want to be the one making the orders and the calls, and it's just going to be it'll be a disservice to the public. and it's bad optics, when it looks like that, a fire drill.
Right. That's what we're heading for right now.
So with these schools being closed for the summer largely, I mean, they are partially open for summer programs and whatnot. Wouldn't that be a great time to take advantage of doing, active shooter drills and learning the layout of the buildings?
We did. I had a sheriff. I know he won't mind me mentioning his name, but Frank Kelly in Miami County, Kansas, and he was big on this, and he wanted to make sure that we were prepared for incidents like that, and we trained during the summers. We did different school districts. I mean, obviously we had several different school districts, but we trained in all those high schools and elementary schools. And so we would know the layouts of those schools, and we had a plan for those buildings. And,
Sure.
I think Butte Silverbow, and, we were doing this 25 years ago, and we're way behind here on, catching up on where our officers need to be in terms of training for these type of situations.
Certainly sounds like it. I mean, was there a plan for the courthouse? I mean, that's a pretty significant target with judges, city officials, county officials.
Those were actually attached. So our department was attached to the courthouse, and since then it's been rebuilt and it's right across the street from the courthouse. But we did have tunnels underground, from one facility to the other.
And you probably had deputies stakes.
We did have deputies in the courthouse as well.
What's it like here? I mean, do you know if they have deputies in the courthouse?
We do have one. Yeah. We do have one officer that's assigned over there to the courthouse, and that's Dan Murphy.
Okay.
So I think he's one of the senior officers been here over 20 years. I know that. As a matter of fact, he was just the one that was named the International Officer of the Year for Domestic Violence.
Wow.
So,
Well, congratulations to you, Dan Murphy.
Yeah, Dan, that's a lot to be proud of.
It is.
I know Dan's getting closer to retirement, but when we win this election, I'm going to be doing everything I can to use his knowledge and try to beg him to stay around for a little bit and help us get this department on the right track.
All right, so we got to get Dan to accept that challenge.
Absolutely. Trust me, I'm working on him.
Let's make his collar heavier.
Yeah. Might have to do that.
Good for you, Dan. Well, thank you for all you do for domestic violence and all the years of service that you put in. So, with that regard of talking about the trainings, now that we know what you have lofty goals for that, and you're going to take away the online training and the online, or I guess maybe they play Xbox and play Call of Duty for their active shooter training.
It's bad.
I don't know. That doesn't count, though.
Right.
Couldn't be any different from the real deal, that's for sure. So, well, let's talk about some of your goals beyond just the keeping the community and the children and safe and churchgoers and hospital staff, which is critically important. I think you have a great idea to put that in place. I think that's going to be a true game changer for the safety of the community, having your officers, and also you have to build a SWAT team that delivers and functions as.
Well, we have a well-trained SWAT team.
Okay.
And that's a great thing. They're just not used.
Right.
And so they go to their training each year and get certified, but then they may get called out one, or it may be 0 times a year and obviously, as you've seen, we've got a horrible drug problem in this community.
Yeah, that is an understatement.
And the cartel's running rampant here, and they have control of this city, and we have a SWAT team that's capable of putting an end to this, and they're not being utilized. And so I have several priorities going into this, the things that I want to deal with. And number one is the drug problem. And people, you can see it when you pull into town. It's not hidden. It's right out in the open. You take the exit off of Interstate 15 and it hits you right in the face as soon as you get to the stop sign at the bottom of the off ramp. We have to put an end to this. This is causing our mental health issues that we're having in this community. You can see every day, you can drive down the street, you see people fighting with make-believe people. You see people talking to themselves, acting very erratically. The bus stops are an interesting place to watch. And we are to blame for this. This can be stopped. We are letting this happen, and drug dealers are getting away with anything they want, and yet we have people overdosing, dying of fentanyl poisoning, and it seems to be we're okay with that because we're worried about the liability that may occur if we go in and serve a search warrant and somebody gets hurt. We're more worried about the drug dealers than the people dying from what they're dealing, and that's a problem. And I'm going to put our SWAT team to work. We're going to start doing drug interdiction from day one. We're going to start rolling our confidential informants to get buys from these houses, and we're going to put an end to it. And I know the sheriff will say, you can't arrest your way out of this problem that has happened under his watch, and he's correct. You cannot arrest your way out of it. But boy, we're going to try, and that's a lot better than what's happening right now, where we just turn a blind eye to it. And there's some more things that need to happen with mental health. Homes or available access for people who are having a mental health crisis. We need to deal with that as well. But those two things go hand in hand. And if we can get rid of the drugs where they don't have access to those drugs, we're going to have a lot of less mental health crisis going on.
Yeah, no, that was all good things, and I really, really hope that you get the opportunity to implement those things, because that was that you're definitely, you ain't lying, brother, because you walk around, you drive around. I mean, there is some serious underlying issues in the community that I think that, and it could be the reason that it's not widely scrutinized, is it's the frog in the boiling pot theory, right? You throw a frog in a pot of boiling water, he jumps out right away. Right. You put him in a cool pot of water and you turn up the heat slowly, he boils to death because he didn't notice it.
Right.
And I think that may be what's occurred here in Butte and a lot of communities around Montana. Is it happens slow, and after a while, it's amazing, unfortunately, as humans, what you can accept as norm versus what you push back when it all shows up at one time. When it's a slow trickle, you can eventually get used to it and just be like, it's fine, whatever.
Well, and you're right. And I think people are waking up to saying now that it is out of control.
Certainly.
And they see the theft that's happening every night. They see the drug deals in public. I mean, it's not hidden. You can go sit several places in town at major intersections and watch drug deals happen all day long. I know you're a new business owner in town and are opening a new coffee shop here in town. And you sent me a video of a guy smoking methamphetamine right in front of your right in front of your shop the other day. And I mean, it's not a one-off. This is happening every single day, and you're running people off of your property there. And, why is it okay for businesses in Butte to have to lock their doors during normal business hours? And I can't imagine that the people in Butte accept this and are okay with it when, our main avenues of Montana and Harrison Street, that the businesses have to lock their doors because people are having mental health crisis or are using drugs and acting erratically in their parking lots, and they fear for their lives and have to lock the doors during business hours. It just makes no sense. And I don't know why we aren't taking care of these problems. And I told the people that will be in my administration, we're going to be out there. We've got cell phones nowadays. We got computers in the cars. We don't need to be sitting in the office on the third floor of the sheriff's office for 10 hours a day. We can do all our work, and we can go park in a high crime area and be seen and stop some of this and take care of these issues so the businesses feel safe, so your children can walk to school and not be afraid. And right now, we've just let it get to such a low point, and I've seen it go off the cliff in the last 8 years. Since I've been here, it's just it's unacceptable, and I just can't believe that anybody does accept it.
Well, I think that the big push for your support is the fact that people do find it unacceptable, and it is time for the proverbial new sheriff in town to do what he needs to do, because The drug and theft, issues are a cancer to the community. It's a cancer to business growth. It'll kill it. It'll kill tourism, and tourism is an important, plays an important role in economics in Montana. It also is a public risk again. I mean, there's people, and I've talked to folks about this in town, where they're afraid to send their children to the park. They don't want to walk their dog at night, or even during the afternoon. Because, it seems that it's all pretty quiet in the mornings because the addicts are sleeping it off.
Right.
And by midday, they're awake, they're stirring, they need to feed their addiction. They fire up their meth or fentanyl or whatever they're doing that day. And then they take to the streets and start wreaking havoc, screaming at cars, screaming obscenities at cars, pointing at people, attacking people, sitting in front of businesses like you talked about, the one that sat in front of mine, smoking meth. I mean, that's not the commercial I'm filming for my business.
Right.
So, that's bad optics. I don't support drugs in any way, shape, or form. So, that's just me. Multiply that by all the hundreds of business owners in town. They're all, I'm sure, most of the ones I've talked to are fed up with it too. And there's no checks and balances for that. And that's why these people smoke that on the streets, and that's why they mug people and they scream, because there's no law and order on that. And that's the expectation set forth. People only get away with what they're allowed to get away with. And they literally feel like this must be Portland.
Right. Well, they know that they're not going to get in trouble,
Right.
and the officers aren't going to arrest them for those crimes, and some of that is because of the jail overcrowding, and we need to make some big changes there at the jail and get some of those people out of there. Do I think we need a bigger jail? I do. Do I think that people would support it? If they knew that some of these people were going to be off the street, and not harassing them, I absolutely do. The problem is I think if I add another 80 beds to the jail, it's not going to be a problem to fill it right back up.
Right.
So, and then we're going to be running. Not only do we have to hire more detention officers, that we're still going to be full. So one of the things, and I've spoken to judges, I've spoken to lawyers, and I've asked, I said, why don't we go into the jail now and look at all the people who are there for nonviolent crimes? And let's ask our detention officers, of those that are here on nonviolent crimes, which ones are being model inmates? Because there are people that get to jail and realize, I made a terrible mistake and I'm not going to let this happen again. And I'm going to start conforming to the rules. And let's go to the county attorney at that point with those names and go to the judge and say, let's put them on house arrest and an ankle monitoring system. Let's get them out of our jail. That frees up room in our jail. Those people can go be active people in the community. They can go get jobs. Obviously, there's a lot of places looking for looking for employees.
Sure.
We're going to be able to monitor them. And I know there's going to be somebody out there that's going to say, well, a couple of them are going to cut off their bracelets. Absolutely, they are. We know this.
Right.
Have you seen our warrant list? It is 18 pages long, 2 columns. There's 800 names. There may even be more than that. I'm not sure.
I saw I saw your post. It was like 775 back in June.
They're not going after him. As a matter of fact, right now, if you get stopped and you have a warrant, all they're doing, and it could be a warrant for failure to appear, all they're doing right now is just giving you another ticket or a notice to appear saying, well, you didn't show up the first time, show up this time. And so, we'll add those people to the warrant list. In the meantime, we're going to have empty jail beds, and we'll narrow down that warrant list. We'll get those people. But really, there was an email sent to the officers that basically said, we don't have any room for people. So unless it's a rape or murder or family partner violence with severe injuries, don't arrest anybody. So you can walk around right now with selling methamphetamine and have a $50,000 cash bond, and all you're getting is a ticket. You're going to get a ticket for the failure to appear to make sure, and you're going to get a ticket on the meth charge. But you've got
it's no wonder that there's a drug problem,
right? I mean, there's no penalty.
This is a utopia for drug trafficking, because drug trafficking and narcotics is a business.
Absolutely.
It's not a business that is sanctioned by the U.S. government or local governments with a business license, obviously. It's a business nonetheless, and these people want to grow their brand, right? It's like brand recognition.
Right.
If you start a new Nike shoe or, a T-shirt company, everybody wants their. So the cartel is absolutely trying to grow their business in communities that have weak law enforcement. Because the more people that they get addicted and dependent on their services, the more money they make. It's
And that's
supply
the
and
problem
demand.
is that
Right.
people believe that the cartel's just drug dealers. No, these are very, very smart
Those are
business
very
people,
intelligent business
and
people.
they know how to run a business.
Well, it's $1 billion corporation.
Absolutely. And
So
they see a
it's running
place like
too.
the 1590 interchange,
Right.
viewed as a major hub.
Well,
You can go east, west, all the way to Canada to Mexico from right here in Butte. And so it's become a major hub for them. And we've got truck stops that we don't patrol. They're outside the city limits.
Well, the rail yard down
only during election years do you get rural patrol memos sent out that says, let's start doing rural patrol. So unless you have a call in Wise River or Divide, you're not seeing an officer except every 4 years, unless there's a call down there. So we have to get active. We've got to handle this situation in the jail so that we can serve these search warrants, have room for these people when we do arrest them. The people that are doing the drug dealing, the people that are committing violent crimes, we have to have room for them. And so that's going to be a big thing, is get that jail overcrowding under control. And I think the jail was built for 79 or 80 people. And I know 2 weeks ago they had 150 some inmates. They had people just handcuffed to benches and they had no room for them. And, you can, that's a lawsuit waiting.
That's a whole other set of issues there. Right.
I think the administration's been sued enough lately that the last thing they need is another one. And so I think that's another big one. The thefts that are going on every night, you follow Butte 411, you wake up every morning to somebody's house got broken into, their car's been broken into, their car's been stolen. That's all related to the drug trade. These guys are going out there getting their money, getting their items, and they're going to trade it for drugs.
Yeah, that's part of the supply and demand to grow the cartel's business here.
Yeah, and it's bad, and
it's at the expense of all the people in Butte. So
yeah, we'll put an end to it. I tell people it's going to take, once I get in there, a good 6 months before really, really getting aggressive with these drug houses before anybody even sees a difference. But what the difference is going to be is I'm going to be posting on social media everything that we're doing. So, when we serve a search warrant that night, people are going to wake up the next morning and they're going to see, what drug house we hit, what we found there, who we found there, what they're being charged with. So they're going to know that something's being done.
Yep, absolutely. I think that there's so many great people in this community. And I think, they all want the drug problem and, to stop, because then their house stops getting broken into, their vehicles and their equipment, their tools, they stop being robbed.
Right.
They stop feeling threatened. They can return to the community. Maybe it could be that they've endured that so long that, it beats community morale down. And I think that largely there's going to be an enormous support for you to take over.
So I had a lady come up. She was an older lady that came up to me yesterday at the folk festival.
Okay.
And she was saying the same thing. She goes, I'm tired of this community being the armpit of Montana.
Wow. Strange statement.
Yeah. And I said, I go around, so some people know this, some people don't, but I announce a lot of barrel racing events across Montana and Washington and Arizona. And my girls that race in Montana, when they're driving through, they don't stop in Butte. And they always, why out of all places, why would you pick Butte? It's dirty. There's drugs everywhere.
Yeah.
We don't we make sure if we're going to fuel up that we fuel up over in Whitehall, or we get fuel somewhere. So we're not going to have to stop in Butte. And that's a problem. That's sad, because the people of Butte are great. That's why I love it here.
Yeah. Wonderful people.
I moved here and they accepted me as like one of their own.
Yep.
And
my family and I have had tremendous support from the community, and we truly love it here. That's why we're so driven to help.
The people are amazing. Yes, the problems exist in every town you go to,
everywhere.
And people will say, well, it's just like Bozeman or Missoula or whatever. Well, the problems are, but we don't have to let it be that way.
No.
We can change it. Who is going to sit there and say, well, it's just that way everywhere? That's a horrible line of reasoning. Let's make it different here.
That's a beat down cop out,
right?
Basically.
No, we can change it, and we're
Absolutely.
going to change it, and we're going to do it as fast as possible.
Absolutely. It's all in what a person or a community will allow.
Right.
And if you largely want it to be as great as we see it can be, and a lot of folks see it the way that we do, then it can be, and it will be.
Right.
There's follow through. There's drive. There's a great future here, and it doesn't mean turning Butte into Bozeman or LA or anything like that. It's keeping it uniquely Butte, but there's a lot of good that can come from these changes, and not anything to be feared.
Right. So I had another great meeting this week with the Butte Rescue Mission.
Okay.
And, they deal with a lot of the homelessness problems. They deal with a lot of people that are having mental health crisis, and they deal with people that have been in sex trafficking and things like that. And so we were kind of talking about my opinion on how I wanted to get rid of the drugs and what would that do to mental health. And these are the experts in town, and they were telling me, that those two things go hand in hand.
Of course.
You get rid of the drugs, your mental health prices go way down, and that a lot of those people, if you make it so they can't get drugs here in town, a lot of those people are going to follow the drugs. They're going to go because they need their drugs.
Yeah, sadly, that's correct.
They're going to go to the next town over where they can get their drugs. And there isn't any place for people that are in the midst of a mental health crisis here. You can take them to jail, but the jail's full. You can take them to the hospital, and they're going to hold them for a little bit. And that's basically all we've got here. You've got Warm Springs, but Warm Springs, when they release somebody from the mental health crisis, they bring them to Butte. It doesn't matter where they're from; they drop them off in Butte because the rescue missions there, they can get fed, they can get. So other departments send their problems to Butte.
So there's a lack of respect for the community here.
Absolutely.
Is it because of, like you had mentioned, its reputation is, like the woman at the festival said, quote unquote, the armpit of Montana. It's not respected. So
right.
People bring the problems and drop them off here.
Oh, absolutely, they do.
Wow.
They buy them a bus ticket, send them to Butte, and they know that they're going to be taken care of here. And
yeah, that's
that
terrible.
Needs to be a call from me to the some of the surrounding departments. Say no more.
I can only imagine that there's many in the community that would be infuriated to know that.
Oh yeah,
because this is nobody's dumping ground. This is our home.
Yeah, and when I spoke with the rescue mission, they told me they just drop them off a couple of blocks away from their office and drop away.
Right. And also, I mean, there's violent offenders in that case.
Absolutely.
There's true community. If you have a mental crisis, that's to be handled with dignity and care to try to help somebody get better, right? Or get stable, at least as stable as they could get.
And they are working on right now a plan to get a mental health crisis location in Butte to deal with these people that are
severely needed. It sounds like, right?
And we definitely need them
because there's probably a lot of good folks out there that are stuck in that drug rut. That once they got on the other side of that mountain, they would be productive members of society.
Absolutely. Nobody went in when they took drugs thinking that they wanted to have a mental health issue later on in life because of it. Nobody, they weren't thinking that way.
When somebody's 7 years old and they want to be an astronaut or a doctor, they're not saying I want to be a meth addict or a drug dealer.
So we need to have some treatment options available, and there are grants out there, and there are other things that we can do for federal resourcing. One of those is the HITA, which is the High Intensity Drug Traffic Area. That's a federal grant through the DEA.
And what does that provide to the community?
It provides money, so it provides resources for officers. It provides prevention.
Okay.
It provides, the aftermath of dealing with the people that are in a crisis, that are. So it helps with prevention, and it helps with recovery, and it helps with getting officers. And you got to have your senators on board, and I know for a fact, because I've spoken with the staff of Senator Daines and Senator Tester that have said, our guys are open to putting Butte on this
list, yeah.
And the problem is that you got to basically admit you've lost control of your town and the drug problem. and they're going to give you these resources, but you got to openly admit I need help, and I can't do it on my own. And I think that's a problem for somebody to admit that what they're doing hasn't worked and it's getting worse, and that I need to ask for help.
Right.
And that's something that we're going to ask for help right away. And we're going to get involvement. I'm going to speak with the FBI and the DEA and tell them, we need help here in Butte, and we want to work together, and, please get involved and take care of some of the problems with us in our town.
Yeah. Well, I mean, there's no room for egos or pride at this point. Humility is going to be the game changer. If you reach out and say, "Hey, Pop Smoke, I need help."
Right.
And
I've spoken to him. So,
right. And I know that you're the man to do that, because you're not taking this role, I feel, because you're not a pocket politician.
I hate politics.
Right.
Yeah.
This is an actual true sheriff here, folks. This isn't a pocket politician who, has his eyes on the governor's mansion after this role. He's doing this for the community. You left law enforcement for a bigger role that had more provisions for your family.
Yeah.
You don't need this. You don't need this job. You have your life. You have your business. You have your reasons for being here. You're doing this purely out of just devotion to community, to passion and honor, pride and duty to your community to make it better. Because yourself, myself, a lot of others drive around. It's like being slapped in the face when you see what's happening, and it's hard to go to bed at night with a clear conscience that we live here, we thrive here, and we're not doing anything to change the crime.
Right.
That's shameful. And I know that you're doing this out of passion, not out of pride.
Yeah, I think this was I ran. I decided to run, so I had spoken with many of the officers on the department, and they had asked me, would you come run? And I was hesitant about it. I have a good career, and I was tired of seeing the drugs, the homelessness, just the filth around the city. You walk down, you can find needles. You walk down the street, you're going to find used syringes, and you'll see needle caps everywhere. Yeah. And so I had some people that stayed out of my house for a couple of weeks from West Virginia. They came in to see Butte and ski at Discovery and Big Sky, and I was in Arizona, and they called me, said just how much they loved the people of Butte, but could not believe what they saw driving down Montana and Harrison with people fighting with the air and stuff. And it was at that point, I called a couple of friends of mine and said, "Do you really want me to do this?" And they said, "Yes." And I said, "Okay, then after that phone call I just got off of, I'm going to do it. I'm going to turn this department around and, make it fun for the officers to come to work. And we're going to be a team, and we're going to put an end to this." And, but in order to do that, the community's got to get out and vote, and they got to admit that they want change. And, I chose Butte as my home. I was lucky enough. I wasn't born here. I wasn't raised here. I chose Butte, and I love the people of Butte. And I think that it's time for it to change the trajectory of the direction Butte's going. And, we got to clean it up. If we want businesses in here, you watch Butte 411, everybody's saying, we want this business, we want this business. And I can tell you, as a business owner, if you drive into Butte and you're driving down Montana and Harrison, you're thinking about bringing a business here, and what you see is people strung out alongside the roads. You're not thinking, wow, I really want to bring a business to Butte. Well, we're going to make it where people, when they drive into Butte, see a clean city and don't see the issues just walking around slapping them in the face.
Well, I can't wait to see that, because I have a business uptown on Arizona, and it's something I'm willing to tackle full on with you to help change that and make it what it needs to be. And I know that so many people here are going to back that. You just got to get out and vote for Mike Gage, because after 12 years of the current administration, it's only trended down. There's no reason to believe that 2 or 4 more years are going to change anything. It's almost the definition of insanity, doing the same thing over and over again, but expecting a different result. It's time to end the insanity and bring in positive change, because Butte is no longer small town America with great values and structure like it once was. Real world problems have showed up here.
Absolutely.
Cartel's not a joke. People will die. People will.
Well, people are dying.
People
There's
are dying
overdosing.
from overdosing, but there's also a threat to their heavy-handedness.
Well, we're going to end up like Billings here before long, where we're having
Well,
shootings. There.
yeah, I mean, exactly. They don't. The cartel is a corporation, a billion-dollar corporation, but they don't play by corporate rules. They hurt people,
Right.
Not just through drugs, through physical violence, right? So that's with weak law enforcement and having a powerful entity like the cartel's presence here, they would mow over the current law enforcement like they weren't even there at this point. They're a very dangerous organization, and we have to restructure things to get rid of them. And they can be removed.
Oh, yeah, absolutely,
100%.
We've got the officers on the department currently that are capable,
and I'm sure there's some fantastic officers.
There are a bunch of them. I've met so many of them. They just need the handcuffs taken.
They're just they got one hand tied behind their back, and you can't fight with one hand. And especially a big corporation, a big an evil entity we can call the cartel. You can't fight that with one hand tied behind the back. It's just they're smarter.
No, you're going to lose everything.
Absolutely. So in order to do this, we have to enact change and enact quickly, because in the next 5 to 10 years, it's going to be starkly different here than it even is in the last 10 years. And that's not a doomsday scenario or a conspiracy theorist. These are facts. It only gets worse. It doesn't get better. These people don't go away until they're made to go away.
Right.
And that's it. And with the jail overcrowding, and a lot of mental health issues and mixed issues, and sounds like a lot of BS too, with traffic violations holding up jail cells. That's ridiculous. Where's the violent offenders that are on the warrant list? Are they not in the jail? Or they're driving around?
They're arresting.
So a violent offender, physical violent offender, sex offenders, things like this that are have a warrant.
I would hope. I would hope and pray that if somebody was on a sex offender list, that they would allow the officer
to put them in jail
to make that arrest.
If they violated their terms of their probation, right?
But according to right now, if somebody's got a probation or a parole violation, or they've absconded, that's not arrestable.
So that
they're told to they're given a notice to go check in with their parole or probation violation or probation or parole officer, and they're allowed to walk away. So you could be absconded from parole, and you're not getting arrested by the officer.
Even a violent offender, that case, yeah. Yes. So obviously that just cannot happen in this community, or any community. It shouldn't. That's a disservice to its voters, taxpayers, and citizens. So yeah, that's a lot. We're definitely encouraged by your plan, your goals, your passion, your drive, and the reason behind you doing this. It's not the paycheck. It's not the benefits.
Right.
It's not the cool uniform.
Absolutely not. It's too hot too cold for.
It's not for the cool hat you're going to get to wear But it's time for change, and I think it's time to not vote for the devil, for the devil you don't. It's time to get to know you,
right,
and put you in the forefront. And I encourage everybody that's listening to this and later going to watch it on YouTube as well. Meet Mike Gage. Engage with Mike Gage. Ask him questions. There's email that'll be attached to this podcast.
They can call my phone as well.
Yeah, so. You are a sheriff for the people,
right?
And you're the people's sheriff. So it's time for the people to get to know the sheriff, so we can see the potential that Butte has to offer.
Yeah,
and I can't thank you enough for this, Mike, for coming here, and looking forward to next week. We'll do another podcast, and we'll keep this rolling. I think this is a good outlet to let for you to get your name out there and your message out there.
I appreciate you having me, and I'm looking forward to it. And I look forward to meeting more people here in Butte. And like I said, we're going to have an email, my phone number on here. You guys are free to reach out to me. I'll stop what I'm doing to come meet with you and meet you in person and address. And I may not know every answer that you ask me, but I'll find the correct answer for you, and I will always get back to you. So, feel free to reach out to me.
Well, that's awesome, and it's spoken like a member of the community and not a politician. You can't beat that, folks. You got a sheriff candidate that wants to literally give you his cell phone number.
I appreciate it, and I look forward to speaking to everyone.
All right, Mike. Well, that's it for today, and we will have another one next week. We're gonna record on Fridays, so we can gather an audience and people that'll tune in and listen to this. So thank you all for listening, and thank you, Mike, for your time. And we will talk to you again on Friday.
Sounds good. Look forward to it.
All righty. Thank you.